Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max. සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max. සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
0-calorie Lipton green tea that increases your metabolism. Let's stay fit with Lipton green tea.
හරිම සුදුයි.
On 1st and 9 tonight, this Friday, the 9th of December 2022. Now or never, Vietnam will swallow the Sri Lankan market whole, warns EU ambassador.
If money is not invested now, in 15 years, Sri Lanka will not be part of these countries that are upper middle income countries based on the green transition.
Lifeline. Sea lines are the lifelines for any country and must be protected, says President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Ensure we can uphold the freedom in our region, because in economic warfare, the most important lifeline is the sea line.
Revenue. VAT and Inland Revenue Acts approved during third reading in Parliament. Strengthening coordination. China agrees to strengthen cooperation for debt issues of developing countries, including Sri Lanka.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Andrew Bernard. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and welcome to AdaDerana 24's English News. The only top story for tonight, both the second and third readings of the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill and Value Added Tax Amendment Bills were passed in Parliament today. Accordingly, the amended Inland Revenue Act will be effective from the 1st of January 2023. During the debate, government parliamentarians also highlighted the importance of an uncorrupt tax system in order to make tax collection efficient and effective.
ඇත්තටම දැන් මේ අද හඳුන්වා දෙන බදු මේවා ඇත්තටම 2018 වෙනකොට මේ වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් තිබුණා සභාපති. දැන් ඊට වැඩි යම් ප්‍රමාණයක් සමහර ඒවා වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා. කවුද කැමති වෙන්නේ මේ වගේ මහා පීඩනයක් තියෙන වෙලාවක අතේ මුදලක් රජයට දෙන්න? කවුරුත් කැමති නැහැ. හැබැයි ලොකුම පීඩාවටපත් වෙලා ඉන්න වින්දිතයින් අපි ජීවත් කරවිය යුතුයි.
මෙහි පනතේ වළංගුභාවය ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ ජනවාරි 1 වෙනිදා. 10000ක් IT ප්‍රොෆෙෂනල්ස්ලා ගිහිල්ලාලු. මහා බැංකුවෙන් අහලා බලන්න කී දෙනෙක් අස් වෙලාද? කී දෙනෙක් අස් වෙන්න යනවාද කියලා. විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයෙන් අහලා බලන්න. දොස්තරලගෙන් අහලා බලන්න. එන්ජිනේරුවරුන්ගෙන් අහලා බලන්න. මැක්සිමම් එක 130ක් ගහන්න පුළුවන් විකල්පයක් තියෙද්දි අපි 130ක් ගහනවා කියලා ඒක අසාධාරණයි. හර්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීතුමා මම යෝජනාවක් ගන්න ඔබතුමා මේ සැබවින්ම මේ රට වෙනුවෙන් කටයුතු කරනවා නම් ඔබතුමා ඇවිල්ලා මේ අමාත්‍යාංශයේ වගකීම බාර ගන්න. ඒක තමයි මම මුදල් කමිටුවේ සභාපතිකම ගත්තේ. මට ඇමතිකම් ඕනේ නැහැ.
මේ බදු අඩු කරන අවස්ථාවේදී මම රටේ වෙළඳ විෂය භාර අමාත්‍යවරේ කැබිනට් ඇමති. සීනි බද්ද 725ට අඩු කළා කියලා මම දන්නේ. අබේආරාමේ මම පන්සලේ ඉන්න අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රවෘත්ති වලට කියනකොටයි දන්නේ 725ට සීනි බද්ද අඩු කළා කියන. මම බරපතල ලෙස කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේදී හැපුණා මේ බද්ද 725ට අඩු කිරීම වැරදි කියලා. ජනාධිපතිතුමා සමග විවිධ විදියට අපි තර්ක විතර්ක කළා. මේක කරන්න එපා, මේක සම්පූර්ණ වැරදි කියලා. නමුත් ජනාධිපතිතුමාට මේ උපදේශකයෝ කිව්වා හෙල්ලෙන්න එපා සර්, මේක තමයි හරි දේ, 725 බද්ද තියෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා. මෙතුමා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ හිටියා. ඔබතුමන්ලා හිතාගෙන ඉන්නේ කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයක ඕනේ රටක කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට ඕනේ දේ කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. මේක කරන වෙන කට්ටියක් හිටියා. මේක ඉන්නවා නිලධාරී කතිපයාධිකාරයා. මේක තේරුම් ගන්න.
මොන බදු ක්‍රමවේදය පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සම්මත කරත් වැඩක් නැහැ. බදු එකතු කරන ක්‍රමවේදය දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ නැත්තම්.
The safety net on tax had to be introduced to those who are at the lowest tier of the society so that they can live freely. Meanwhile, a rigorous, uncompromised and uncorrupt taxation system must be introduced to this country if we are going to rebuild this nation. If we don't do that, our sons and daughters also will stand up like this and speak about a fallen state, which is not any of our dream, which we should by some means stop. Therefore, this aggregated taxation regime, it's a painful thing, unpopular thing, unpolitical thing. It may hurt and it may give weapons to the opposition to attack the government. and go on the street. But let us think what we can do to repair the fallen economy, what we can do to uplift the life of our marginalized, peripheralized citizens. I am paying the full tax that should be paid to the state. Therefore, I talk with authority that all the others who should be paying tax must pay so that we can rebuild this nation.
At the end of the debate, division was called for both the second and third readings of the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill and the Inland Revenue Tax Amendment Bill. During the division for the third reading on the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill, 82 members voted in favour while 41 voted against it. For the third reading division of the Inland Revenue Tax Amendment Bill, 79 votes were cast in favour while 36 votes were cast against it. As a result, both the amendments were passed in Parliament today. Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe believes that countries in the Indian Ocean should take proactive measures to protect the Indian waters as the sea lines ensure economic power for the region. The head of state said that as a first step, Sri Lanka has taken steps to draft a new law protecting undersea cables in the Indian Ocean.
We may all not have big navies or big air forces, but all of us will have a lot of small ships, some very modern, some not so. Sufficient to ensure that we have a voice. That's what we have to ensure. There are no need for alliances. I don't think we are countries that want to get into military alliances. But we should be able to work with each other, exchange ideas with each other, and cooperate with each other to ensure the freedom of navigation in the Indian Ocean. And our voice should be the loudest amongst all the others for talking of freedom of navigation in the Indian Ocean. We should have the ability to uphold it. We see the importance of that, especially to us and the island state in the Indian Ocean. So this is where exchange of ideas from time to time are important. That we ensure we can uphold the freedom in our region, because in economic warfare, the most important lifeline is the sea line. It has been for thousands of years and it will be now. Now Sri Lanka is taking a unique step. We are drafting, I think, the first law in Asia on undersea cables, on protecting our undersea cables. That's the very first step we are taking. So we feel this is important. These are important lines of communication. We must now not think of 2022. If you want to know how important you are, think of 2050. Then you realize the importance. So I am happy that we have here members from different countries who meet here, who exchange ideas, and who will help to build up this relationship. We are not seeking alliances, we are not seeking military power, but we just want to ensure that our region is safe, stable, and open to everyone, and no one will be a hindrance. That is what I see the future as. That's what Sri Lanka sees the future as, and that should be the future for all of us. Let us think back. Let us think of where we are, and let's think where we have to go. And for those in Sri Lanka, those from Sri Lanka, must remember, in such a context, you can't be a weak country. That does not mean weak militarily. You cannot be weak economically. So this is why I have set about these new reforms which will make us very strong by 2050. What hasn't worked has to be rejected, and you have to think anew. But if you don't have economic power, your political strength and your military strength will count for nothing. So this has to go hand in hand.
Now, the chiefs of the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, China's Exim Bank and the Development Bank have agreed to continue in strengthening cooperation and coordination for international development and debt issues of developing countries. This agreement was made during meetings in line with the 1 to 6 roundtable focusing on international economic situation and the debt of developing countries, including Sri Lanka. Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, who is in China to attend the 1+6 roundtable with heads of major international economic organizations, met with the host of the event, Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang. During the meeting, the Chinese Premier said that China will continue to strengthen macro policy coordination with all parties, including the IMF, to tackle debt, climate change and other global challenges and make greater contributions to promoting global economic recovery and sustainable development. Li Keqiang has also said that China will implement the G20's debt service suspension initiative in all respects, adding that China will work with relevant G20 member countries to formulate and participate in a fair and equitable debt restructuring plan. Meanwhile, during a working dinner hosted for President of the World Bank Group David Malpass and IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva by Presidents of the China Exim Bank and China Development Bank, the parties had a positive discussion on the international economic situation and the debt of developing countries, including Sri Lanka. According to the Chinese embassy in Colombo, all parties have expressed that they will give full play to their respective advantages in the future and continue to strengthen coordination and cooperation in related fields on international development and debt issues of developing countries. Now, the Committee on Public Enterprises questioned the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment on an appointment of a vice chairman by the subject minister, which is said to be illegal as per the provisions of the Sri Lanka Foreign Employment Bureau Act. The Court recommended the SLBFE to provide them a report on the decisions taken by the vice chairman within 2 weeks and recommended those decisions as illegal.
එක් තැනක තියෙනවා මේ පනතේ හැටියට අධ්‍යක්ෂකවරු තමයි පත් කරන්න පුළුවන් අමාත්‍යවරයාට උපසභාපති කියන තනතුරක් මේකේ නැහැ. නමුත් උපසභාපති කියන තනතුරකටත් අමාත්‍යවරයා විසින් පත් කරලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට එහි නීත්‍යානුකූලභාවය පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්නයක් මතුවෙනවා.
ඒ ලියුම පත්වීමේ ලියුම ලේකම්තුමා දීලා තියෙන්නේ ඔබතුමාද කවුරු හරි හිටපු ලේකම්තුමාද දීලා තියෙන්නේ ඇමතුමා විසින් විතරක්.
සභාපතිතුමනි මේ පනතේ 5.1 ඈ කියන ඡේදයටදී ගරු අමාත්‍යතුමා තමයි ඒ පත්වීම කරන්නේ ලේකම්වරයා නෙමෙයි. ලේකම්වරයාක අත්සන් කළා නැහැ.
ඇමතිතුමෙකුට තනියෙන් පත්වීමක් කරන්න බෑ. ඒ පත්වීම ලේකම්තුමා තමයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කරන්නේ. මමත් හිටපු ලේකම්වරේ අපි තමයි පත්වීම කරලා ඇමතුමාට ලියුම දෙන්නේ. ඉතින් දැන් ඔතන ඇමතුමා තනියෙන් ලියුමක් ගහලා තියෙනවා නම් ඒක වැරදි.
සභාපතිතුමනි ඇත්තටම පත් කළ තියෙන්නේ අධ්‍යක්ෂකවරයෙක් හැටියට.
නෑ ඔබතුමා මේක නිවැරදි කරන්න. Appointment as a vice chairman of the board of directors of Sri Lanka Foreign Employment Bureau. අපි අමාත්‍යාංශ ලේකම්තුමාට කියා හිටිනවා මේ උපසභාපතිවරයා මේ තාක්කල් ගනු ලැබූ තීරණ පිළිබඳව යම් තීරණ පිළිබඳව සති දෙකක් ඇතුළත අපිට වාර්තා කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ ගනු ලැබූ සියලු නියෝග නීති විරෝධී නියෝග විදිහට කෝප් කමිටුව නිර්දේශ කරනවා. පත් කළා තියෙන්නේ 7 වෙනි මාසේ 26 වෙනිදා 2022 by the Auditor General.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that this is a clear letter which has been submitted.
This letter has been withdrawn?
It has been corrected on that to say so that I've been appointed as the member of the board, as a director, and then that has been designated as vice chairman. So for the record purpose, I just want to make it clear, there's no remuneration or any payment I have taken.
So minister has appointed you as a director, not as a vice chairman.
Board member, and designated me as a vice chairman in order for me to do the job.
Who has appointed you as a vice chairman? Either minister or the board?
From the board, sir.
Board decided.
The board has delegated me with the powers to admin this place. I was the chairman of the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment for 2 years.
මේ ඩෙලිගේට් කරපු බලය නිසා මේ නන් එක්සිකියුටිව් ඩිරෙක්ටර් කෙනෙකුට එක්සිකියුටිව් පවර් එකක් ඕගොල්ලෝ දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒක ආයතනයේ බලපෑමක් තියෙනවා. ඒකයි මේ සභාපතිතුමා අහන්නේ. එක්සිකියුටිව් පවර්ස් කියන්නේ ආයතනය ඇතුලේ ඇඩ්මිනිස්ට්‍රේෂන් කරන්න පුළුවන් බලය ඩිරෙක්ටර්ස්ලට නැහැ. මෙතන සභාපතිතුමා වගකීමෙන් බැඳිලා ඉන්නවා මේ යට සභාපතිවරයා නියෝජ්‍ය සභාපති හරි කවුරු හරි ගන්න සියලු පරිපාලන තීරණ ඔබේ තීරණ විදියට. ඒ හින්දා බෝඩ් එක ඒක ගැන වගකීමෙන් කරන්න වෙනවා නැත්නම් විශාල ප්‍රශ්නකට යනවා මේ.
නෑ ඊට වඩා ලේසි අපි දැන් අතන අපි කෝප් එක විදියට නැති තනතුරක් පාවිච්චි කිරීම කියන එක වැරද්දක්. අද ඉඳන් මේ තනතුර පාවිච්චි කරන්න එපා කියලා අපි නිර්දේශයක් දෙමු.
Welcome back. Now, the National Building Research Organization says the atmospheric pollution experienced in Sri Lanka is clearing gradually as the pollution level of the airflow from India to Sri Lanka is now receding fast. However, they say that smog and misty environment experienced in several areas will continue for the next 2 to 3 days and will not escalate further. As of 8 a.m. today, the National Building Research Organization, based on its report on air quality status, and the air quality levels in Colombo reached to moderate levels, meaning the quality is acceptable. Air quality in Jaffna and Vaunia, which was measured as unhealthy for sensitive groups, also reached moderate levels, based on the NBRO's report issued at 8 a.m. The NBRO says atmospheric pollution experienced in Sri Lanka is clearing gradually, as the pollution level of the airflow from India to Sri Lanka is now receding fast. Even though the air quality of the atmosphere has improved in most areas, smog and misty conditions were observed in several parts of Colombo during the day. By evening, the air quality of skies around Colombo was denoted as unhealthy for sensitive groups based on the data received by the real-time air quality monitoring system of the National Building Research Organization as at 8 p.m. However, they say that the general public is not likely to be affected.
ඊයේ වගේ තත්වයකට යලි ගමන් කිරීමේ අවදානමකුත් තියෙනවද?
කාලගුණික තත්ත්වය මත වෙනස් වෙනවා. දැන් තියෙන තත්ත්වය ගත්තොතින් අපි අර බෙන්ගාල් බුක්කේ පවතින ඒ සුළි කුණාටුව ඒක දැන් එන්න ඉන්දියාව තුරට ගමන් කරනවා. ඒ තුරට ගමන් කරනකොට අපේ රටට එන වායු ධාරාව වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඒ වෙනස් වීම අනුව වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් අපේ බලාපොරොත්තුව ඉදිරි දවස් 2-3ක් යනකල් මේ තත්ත්වයෙන් පවතී කියන එක තමයි මීට වඩා වැඩි වෙන එකක් නෑ කියන බලාපොරොත්තුව තියෙනවා.
The President's senior advisor on climate change, Derana English, observes that climate change is the most serious challenge that Sri Lanka will have to face in the future. Issuing a special statement regarding the hazardous air pollution and the consequent decline in air quality across the island over the past 2 days, Vijayawardena noted that President Ranil Wickremesinghe initiated a discourse on climate change, having foreseen such situations well ahead of time. Vijayawardena was referring to the Climate Change Prosperity Plan initiated by President Wickremesinghe, claiming that the measures identified climate change issues that would affect the country. He went on to state that air pollution affects the health of the country's people as well as agriculture, and that children and the elderly are especially affected. Now, Ambassador of the EU in Sri Lanka, Denny Chaibi, cautioned Sri Lanka to make investments into renewable energy now or fail to graduate to the upper level middle income country. Speaking at a workshop in Colombo, the EU ambassador emphasized that unless Sri Lanka encourages investments into green energy, countries like Vietnam will swallow the Sri Lankan market whole in the EU. Speaking at the same event, Minister of Environment Nazir Ahmed said that the government of Sri Lanka is adopting a hybrid energy policy, striking a balance between petroleum-based energy production along with renewable energy in order to achieve what he termed as energy efficiency. The EU delegation in Colombo organized a workshop titled Accelerating Industries and Climate Responses in Sri Lanka, with experts from many fields discussing solutions for the country's energy crisis.
The Climate Change Secretariat, under the Ministry of Environment, with the assistance of other public sector institutions and private sector, submitted revised National Determined Contributions (NDCs) to UNFCCC as per the requirements of the Paris Agreement. The revised NDCs are having more ambitious targets in key sectors for both mitigation and adaptation. Accordingly, we have a national target of 14.5% reduction of our emissions, while the target for the industry sector is 7%. Further, the ministry, with the assistance of UNDP, is developing a roadmap and a strategic plan to reach net zero carbon status by 2050. In achieving the targets, which are categorized as unconditional, the country has to manage with own resources, while the unconditional targets require assistance from international community. I strongly believe Sri Lanka can meet the NDCC target as well as net carbon zero status as planned with the international support. Sri Lankan industries too can access the multitudes of green financing options available globally. This is something, as a country, we have not explored adequately. The central bank has published its green taxonomy, which will enable green financing frameworks to be established. The government's commitment towards renewable energy is also reflected by His Excellency the President's decision to introduce a number of tax proposals in line with creating an environmentally friendly green and blue economy. Those tax proposals are centered around encouraging the use of electric vehicles, and few concessions have been granted accordingly. In addition, the PL and Social Security Contribution, PAL and Social Security Contribution, that is SSCL, both have been exempted on importation of solar panel and inverters. These concessions will create new opportunities for local industries. There was also mention about green hydrogen technology in the budget statement by His Excellency the President. Of course, the country has to face, again on the other side, filling the gap in the revenue collection. It is quite evident that the government is trying to create a balance between petroleum-based power generation and renewable energy, whilst gradually moving in the direction of renewable energy to be the primary source of energy generation in Sri Lanka beyond 2030. This hybrid energy policy is the way forward of becoming energy efficient for Sri Lanka, and the government is strengthening that policy within a liberalized energy market where competition will become the key feature.
There is a lot of money in Sri Lanka through all the exporters, and this is the moment to invest. It's now. That's why I put the point about ineluctability of the shift. If money is not invested now, in 15 years, Sri Lanka will not be part of these countries that are upper middle income country based on a green transition. There's simply no time. Now are the investments on green energy. In few years, it will be too late. And countries like Vietnam, which has also market-free access to Europe, countries like Vietnam, which are investing massively, will have swallowed the whole market that Sri Lanka has, which is the upper end of the garment. This is the time to move to solar panels for the industry. This is the time to produce renewable packages. It will be too late.
Now, India has resumed the issuing of electronic visas for Sri Lankan nationals. The Indian High Commission in Colombo assured in a tweet that Sri Lankans seeking to visit India for leisure, business conferences and other purposes are now once again able to apply for travel visas in an entirely virtual environment. Travellers have been requested to visit indianvisaonline.gov to apply for their visas. Now in your business news, Sri Lankan shares slipped today after gaining for 9 straight sessions, reverting from its highest gain in more than 7 weeks on profit-taking. The main all-share price index closed 0.54% lower at 8,843.90. The more liquid index, S&P SL20, closed 0.59% or 16.77 points lower at 2,627.72. The market witnessed a turnover of 1.6 billion rupees, lower than this year's daily average turnover of 2.9 billion rupees. The market saw a net foreign inflow of 1 million rupees. In the meantime, the total net foreign inflow stood at 22 billion rupees so far for this year. John Keel's holdings, in the meantime, pulled the index down to close at 1.5% lower at 147 rupees. Aitken Spence lost 2% to close at 141 rupees, and Commercial Bank closed 1.4% down at 50.50 cents a share. Now let's take a look at how the rupee fared against other major currencies in the world. That's all the news we have for this evening. Join us again tomorrow for the very latest news at the very same time. Have a pleasant evening and good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.